Welcome to the Reality Trifecta podcast. I am your host, and today we are recapping the season finale of Survivor 49. We are down to 5 people. We got Rizzo, Sophie Bolerdi, Sage, Savannah. I think I said everyone's name. Oh, and Christina. Christina, yes. That is the 5th person. Yes. Starting off the finale, we have the final 5 competing in a challenge at camp. Whoever wins that challenge will win in an advantage for the immunity challenge later on. And that person ended up being Sophie Bolerdi. They had to find a scroll that was hidden in camp on the island, and everybody's looking at the ground, and so people had to think outside the box. Maybe it wasn't on the ground. It was above them. It was on a tree. Sophie Bolerdi found the advantage, and that will be her advantage for the next challenge. We had one of the most craziest immunity challenges of the season, and it was not looking good for Sophie Bolerdi, as her advantage was having the ladder halfway done for her, and it was a tough, brutal challenge to watch because I felt like every single component of the challenge was divided into chapters. It was strong, persevering, balance, and thinking. The mind game when it came to the puzzle. Sophie was trailing and was in last place the whole time, so her advantage didn't work. Instead, somebody else won the challenge, and that person ended up being Savannah. She has been the challenge beast of the season, and she's now a part of a club of women and individuals who have won as much immunity challenge as she has won throughout this season. They all get back to camp, and the real talk was who can they beat at the fire making challenge in the final 4. Is it either Sage or Christina? Those were the bottom 2, besides the top 3 that have the majority in Rizzo, Savannah, and Sophie Bolerdi. So, Sage or Christina was at the chopping block, and they said that the person who does a really good job at the fire making competition is Christina over Sage. And there was talk maybe they would vote Sage, but Sage has been a very strategic player compared to Christina, so I was surprised that at Tribal Council, they voted out Christina. And Christina's like, damn, I had the best story to tell at Final Tribal Council. And Sage stays and is competing in the Final 4. And the same night, Rizzo played his idol, securing his spot in the Final 4. The next day, at the immunity challenge, it involved the swimming, and it also involved making a puzzle table. A puzzle that is on a table, and they have to maneuver a ball in a maze. And also during that challenge, they also had to dig through to sand to go underneath a pole, a huge log. They have to go underneath the log, and they're digging out sand at the same time. And Rizzo, in Rizzo fashion, he's copying the puzzle just like he did from the first episode against Alex, but that he has not made any progress at all when it came to that. And again, Sophie was in dead last the whole time until she won the final immunity challenge. She does that, and now she has to decide who she wants to put in the fire making competition. And Savannah's like, come on, Soph. Like, it should be a no-brainer. What are you doing? But at that point, she has to do what she needs to do for her own game. And so she decides to take Sage to the final three and it pins Savannah and Rizzo in the fire-making challenge. And it turns out Savannah wins the fire-making showdown. And Rizzo becomes the final member of the jury. He had one of the best runs I have ever seen in a Survivor contestant. He was fearless, and he held on to an idol for 9 tribal councils, instilling fear into everybody as to when he will use it. He had the wits, he had the strategy, and he knew what he was doing. And like I said, he has been one of the most fearless players of the season. Now, we go to the final tribal council, where the final 3 have to plead their case to the jury as to why they deserve the title of sole survivor. I feel like Sage was being abrasive as to how her game went, being a very emotional game, and she has been a very emotional player, making emotional decisions, but she was condemned for flipping on her real allies. Like, it was brought up that there was 7 of them against old Uli players, and she just kept on flip-flopping and would vote with them and then vote with that alliance and then vote with them and then vote outside that alliance. And she did control votes emotionally, but that gave her 1 vote by Joanne on the jury. Now, we got Sophie Bolardi, where she pleads her case that she has had one of the best strategic social games of the season, which I do agree. And she keeps on saying that I didn't have to rely on advantages, and I did not have to rely on wooden immunity necklaces, where I just thought to myself, wow, that's talking smack. But the bottom line is, was her game good enough? With 2 votes, it was not. With 4 votes from the jury, Savannah has won Survivor 49 by playing one of the most strategic games, despite being at the bottom at the beginning of the tribe. She did all that she could to get to the very end, and she won the immunity challenges that she needed to win. She has been one of the most clutch players of the season, and she rightfully deserves it. That is the definition of outwit, outplay, and outlast. Well, mostly outplay and outlast, but she did what she did by getting to the finale, by winning the challenges that she needed to win. Therefore, the jury crowned her the title of sole survivor. And I gotta say, this season has been pretty good. I felt like the pre-merge portion of the season was very straightforward. There was Uli versus Hina, and then there was the Disaster Tribe. And so, I'm not really a huge fan of Disaster Tribe pre-merges, but it paid off. It really did pay off, and all the contestants, for the most part, have been likable, and there was no contestant that made you feel bitter. This was a good cast, and this was a good season. Thank you all so much for listening. I am honored to have finished the first season of recapping Survivor on this podcast. Well, this is the first Survivor season to be fully recapped on this podcast. That's what I meant. I don't mean to say I recapped the entire season of Survivor Borneo. And throughout the reunion show, no, not the reunion show, the after show, we had a preview of Survivor 50, and that is a topic or subject to talk about in the future. I thank you all so much for listening, and have a great day.